Welcome back to continuing the discussion, Exodus chapter 20. And this time, on this continuing the discussion, we're going to go a little deeper with those 10 commandments. Chapter 20 is where the 10 commandments first make their first appearance. So welcome back to Whole Bible Study with me, Taddy Noy. If you're just joining me from our deep dive into Exodus chapter 20, thank you for walking through that powerful moment on Mount Sinai with me. In this episode, we're going to go even deeper beyond the narrative into the heart of the 10 commandments, where they came from, what they meant then, and what they can still mean for us now. This will be a longer journey, so bear with me, but I hope it's one that brings clarity, conviction, and maybe even some fresh perspective. Let's begin. The 10 Commandments, also known as the Decalogue, are perhaps the most well-known moral code in human history. They are both theological and social. They form the moral spine of Western civilization, and yet they weren't given as abstract rules. They were delivered in a moment of liberation to a people just freed from slavery. These were not commandments for controlling the free. They were gifts to help a formerly enslaved people learn how to live. That's an important framing. Before God ever gave rules, he gave freedom. The commandments are part of the covenantal relationship between God and Israel. And in ancient Near Eastern culture, covenants always began with a preamble, reminding the people of the relationship they had with the suzerain or the sovereign. That's exactly what we see in Exodus 22. I am the Lord your God who brought you out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. That verse isn't just a commandment, it's a declaration of love and deliverance. It's the foundation of everything that follows. Each commandment that follows is not a random list of rules. Together they represent a reordering of life around the sacred. The sacredness of God, of time, of parents, of life, of covenant, and of trust. They reflect the social architecture of a community being shaped not by empire, but by holiness. Let's walk through each commandment with some deeper cultural and theological context. Number 1, you shall have no other gods before me. This is a revolutionary command. In the ancient world, polytheism was the norm. Every region, every kingdom, every family had their own gods. Egypt, where Israel had just come from, had a god for everything: sun, fertility, Nile, cats. This commandment doesn't deny the existence of other so-called gods, but it asserts Yahweh's supremacy and exclusivity in Israel's life. It's about loyalty. The Hebrew, before me, can also mean in my face. God is saying, don't bring rivals into this relationship. This is covenantal fidelity. And number 2, you shall not make for yourself an image, a graven image. This goes beyond idol statues. In a world where gods were represented physically in statues, carvings, amulets, Yahweh is saying, don't reduce me to anything you can control. The word for image in Hebrew is pasel, which implies a carved or fashioned object. God is invisible, and that's part of the theology here. He's ineffable, undescribable. To make an image is to attempt to contain or manipulate God, to put a box around him. Israel was to be distinct. They would worship the unseen. You shall not misuse, and number 3, you shall not misuse the name of the Lord your God. This is not just about swearing. In Hebrew, misuse is the word shav, meaning emptiness or vanity. The command is about using God's name in false oaths, or for manipulation, or in careless speech. God's name is not a spell or slogan. It's sacred. And names in the ancient world held deep meaning. To misuse the name was to misrepresent God's character. Number 4, remember the Sabbath by keeping it holy. Sabbath is an act of resistance. In Egypt, they had to resist. The gods of the empire demanded endless productivity, but Yahweh commands rest because his people are not machines. Sabbath disrupts the logic of empire. It is liberation ritualized into time. It also links creation and Exodus. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth. Sabbath is not just rest, it's a declaration of trust that the world will keep spinning even if we stop. Number 5, honor thy mother and thy father. This is the hinge commandment linking the first 4, which is the focus on God, and the next 5, which is a focus on others. In Hebrew society, honoring parents was not just a personal virtue, it was essential for survival of communal wisdom. For the survival of communal wisdom. This wasn't about blind obedience, but reverence for generational continuity. It also preserved the family structure, which was foundational to the covenantal society. Number 6, thou shalt not murder. In Hebrew, the word is ratzach, which specifically refers to unlawful killing, murder. It's not the general word for killing, harag. This command affirms the sacredness of human life made in the image of God. In the chaos of the early tribal life, where vengeance could spiral into blood feuds, this was a powerful restraint and probably necessary. Number 7, you shall not commit adultery. Adultery in the ancient world had communal consequences. It was not just about personal betrayal. It fractured families and property lines. Marriage was a covenant, both sacred and social. This commandment protected the integrity of households and the stability of society. And number 8, you shall not steal. Again, more than personal ethics, this command speaks to the economic justice. In agrarian society, stealing someone's tools or livestock could destroy their livelihood. Theft eroded the trust that held the community together. God was forming a society where people shared covenantal responsibility for one another. And 9, you shall not give false testimony against your neighbor. Truth-telling was the foundation of justice. In tribal courts, witnesses carried enormous weight. A false testimony could mean death or ruin. But even beyond the courtroom, this command shapes a community of honesty and accountability. And finally, number 10, you shall not covet. This commandment is inward. All the other deal with actions. This one deals with desire. Covetousness is not just wanting, it's wanting in a way that corrodes your heart. It's a refusal to be content. And it's often the seed that leads to breaking all of the other commandments. This final word reminds us that holiness starts in the soul. Together, these 10 words, called in the Hebrew the assert hadarat, form a spiritual constitution. They aren't burdens, they're boundaries that guard freedom. They are relational, not merely legal. And they're as much about shaping a people as they are about shaping individuals. It's also worth noting, these commands were spoken aloud by God to all the people. That's unique. Most laws are given to Moses privately, but here God's voice thundered from Sinai. The people begged for it to stop. Why? Because when divine holiness meets human frailty, it's overwhelming. But that's part of the message. God speaks not just to prophets, but to people. Theologically, the Decalogue stands as a bridge between grace and responsibility. God saves first, then commands. That order matters. Grace always comes before the law. But once we've been delivered, we're called to live differently. These commandments aren't the means of salvation, they're the response to it. Now, over the centuries, these words have been interpreted, adapted, even politicized. But when we return to the mountain, when we hear them fresh in their original context, they aren't cold laws, they're love carved in stone. As someone who tries to live a life of purpose, faith, and humility, I find something deeply beautiful in these words. They confront me, they guide me, and they remind me that freedom without formation can lead us right back into chains. And what do they say to us today? Well, I think they're still whispering, honor what is holy, love what is real, and trust the God who speaks in thunder and stillness. Thank you for staying with me through this longer reflection. If something in this stirred your heart, maybe something I didn't even mention, drop your thoughts in the comments below. I love learning and hearing these things together. This journey of us is rich because we're not walking it alone. And wherever you are today, may you be reminded God's voice still speaks. His words still shape, and his covenant still holds. Thank you again for staying with me for this longer deep dive on the Ten Commandments. And we will see you in the next chapter tomorrow, chapter 21 of Exodus. Thank you.